In this episode, we look at different account types and why each one needs its own security controls, monitoring, and review. An account is not just a username in a system. It represents an identity that can do something, reach something, approve something, change something, or connect one system to another. Some accounts belong to everyday users. Some accounts have powerful administrative rights. Some are used by applications and automated processes. Some are created for vendors, contractors, or partners. Some exist only for emergencies when normal access is unavailable. If an organization treats all of these accounts the same way, it will almost always create unnecessary risk. The safer approach is to understand what each account is for, what it can access, how it should be controlled, and how quickly it should be removed when the need ends. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is part of our companion study series. The first book is a detailed study guide that explains the exam and helps you prepare for it with confidence. The second is a Kindle-only ebook with 1,000 flashcards you can use on your mobile device or Kindle for quick review. You can find both at Cyber.Me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A user account is the normal account assigned to a person so they can do their everyday work. This might allow someone to sign in to email, access approved files, use business applications, submit forms, attend meetings, or complete routine tasks. A user account should be tied to a real person, a known role, and a current business need. That connection matters because security teams need to know who performed an action and whether the action fits the person's job. User accounts usually should not have broad administrative power. If a normal account is compromised, the damage should be limited by the permissions attached to it. This is why least privilege matters so much. A normal user should have enough access to work, but not so much access that one stolen password becomes a major security event. Privileged accounts are accounts with elevated authority. They may be able to install software, change system settings, create accounts, reset passwords, modify security controls, view sensitive data, or manage cloud resources. These accounts are powerful because they can affect other accounts and systems. For that reason, they require stronger controls than ordinary user accounts. A privileged account should be limited to people who truly need that level of access, and the access should be reviewed regularly. It should also be monitored more closely because the impact of misuse is higher. If an attacker compromises a normal user account, the attacker may have to work harder to move forward. If an attacker compromises a privileged account, the attacker may already have the keys needed to make major changes. A common mistake is allowing people to use privileged accounts for routine daily work. Someone might read email, browse the web, join meetings, and perform administrative tasks from the same highly privileged account. That creates unnecessary exposure. If the person opens a malicious attachment or signs into a risky website while using a privileged identity, the attacker may gain far more access than expected. A safer model separates normal user activity from administrative activity. The person may have one standard account for everyday work and a separate privileged account for approved administrative tasks. This separation helps limit damage and makes monitoring clearer. When a privileged account is used, that use should stand out. It should be easier to see that an administrative action occurred and who was responsible for it. Service accounts are used by applications, services, scripts, or automated processes rather than by a person directly. A service account might let a web application connect to a database, a backup system read files, a monitoring tool collect data, or an automation process move information between systems. These accounts are important because many business systems depend on them quietly in the background. They can also be risky because people may forget they exist after the original project is finished. A service account still needs an owner, a documented purpose, controlled permissions, protected credentials, and a review schedule. If a service account has broad access and its credential is exposed, an attacker may be able to move through systems without using a normal human login. That makes service accounts a major part of identity security. Service accounts should not be treated like ordinary user accounts because their behavior is different. A person may sign in during work hours from known devices and locations. A service account may operate all day, connect from servers, and perform repeated actions at predictable intervals. Monitoring should reflect that difference. If a service account that normally connects only from one server suddenly signs in from a workstation, that may be suspicious. If it begins accessing new data, creating new connections, or failing authentication repeatedly, the change deserves review. Service account credentials also need careful handling. Passwords, keys, and tokens should not be stored casually in shared documents or visible configuration files. A service account may not have a human face, but it still represents trust, and that trust can be abused. Third-party accounts are created for people or systems outside the organization, such as vendors, contractors, consultants, managed service providers, auditors, or business partners. These accounts can be necessary because outside parties often need limited access to support technology, deliver services, review records, or collaborate on projects. The risk is that the organization does not control the third party in the same way it controls its own workforce. A vendor employee may leave the vendor's company. A contractor's project may end. A partner may have different security practices. If third-party access is not reviewed and removed on time, an outside account can become a forgotten pathway into the environment. Third-party accounts should have clear ownership inside the organization, clear expiration expectations, and clear limits on what they can do. Third-party access should be monitored with extra care because it often crosses organizational boundaries. The account may connect remotely, access specific systems, or operate only during approved support windows. That pattern gives the organization something to compare against. If a vendor account is used at an unusual time, from an unfamiliar location, or against a system outside its support responsibility, the activity may need investigation. Third-party accounts should also follow least privilege. A vendor supporting one application should not automatically receive broad access to the whole network. Contracts, security requirements, and access approvals should match the technical controls. The organization also needs a deprovisioning process that works when the relationship changes. Outside access should not depend on someone remembering an old email months after the work is finished. Emergency access accounts are special accounts used when normal administrative access is unavailable or when an urgent situation requires fast action. You may hear these described as break glass accounts because they are reserved for serious situations, similar to breaking glass to reach emergency equipment. These accounts can be necessary when an identity provider is unavailable, a configuration mistake locks administrators out, or a critical recovery task must happen quickly. The danger is that emergency accounts are often powerful by design. If they are poorly controlled, they can become an attacker's favorite target or an internal shortcut around normal security processes. Emergency access should exist because real failures happen, but it should not be used casually. It should be protected, documented, monitored, and reviewed every time it is used. Emergency access controls should answer several practical questions. Who is allowed to use the account? Where is the credential stored? How is the use approved? How is the activity logged? Who reviews what happened afterward? The account should be difficult enough to misuse, but still available during a genuine emergency. That balance is important because an emergency account that nobody can access during a crisis does not serve its purpose. At the same time, an emergency account with a shared password known by too many people creates serious risk. Many organizations protect these accounts with strong authentication, secure vaulting, strict monitoring, and immediate review after use. The account should also be tested carefully so the organization knows it works before a real crisis arrives. Privilege models describe how access and authority are assigned. One basic model is standard user access for everyday work and elevated access for administrative tasks. Another model is just enough access, where a person or account receives only the specific permissions needed for a specific responsibility. Some environments also use time-limited elevation, where privileged rights are granted for a short period and then removed automatically. These models all support the same security idea. Do not let powerful access remain broader or longer than necessary. The more privilege an account has, the more carefully it should be controlled. Privilege is not only about job title. It is about what the account can actually do inside systems, applications, data stores, and cloud services. Controls should match the account type and the level of risk. A normal user account may require a strong password, multi-factor authentication, MFA, device checks, and normal monitoring. A privileged account may require stronger MFA, approval before elevation, session recording, separate administrative credentials, and more frequent access reviews. A service account may require credential rotation, limited permissions, ownership records, and alerts when behavior changes. A third-party account may require expiration dates, remote access limits, contractual controls, and tighter monitoring. An emergency access account may require secure storage, special approval, and immediate post-use review. The point is not to make identity management complicated for its own sake. The point is to apply stronger safeguards where misuse would create greater harm. Monitoring helps confirm that accounts are being used as expected. For user accounts, monitoring may show unusual sign-in locations, repeated failed attempts, or access outside normal duties. For privileged accounts, monitoring should highlight administrative changes, security control modifications, account creation, permission changes, and access to sensitive systems. For service accounts, monitoring should focus on unusual source systems, new access patterns, failed authentications, and unexpected data movement. For third-party accounts, monitoring should pay attention to time, location, target systems, and whether the access matches the approved purpose. For emergency accounts, every use should be treated as important and reviewed. Monitoring turns account rules into observable behavior. Without monitoring, the organization may have policies on paper while risky activity goes unnoticed. Access reviews are the process of checking whether accounts and permissions still make sense. A review may confirm that a user still needs access, a privileged administrator still needs elevated rights, a service account still supports an active system, a vendor still has an approved business need, or an emergency account is still properly protected. Reviews are especially important because access often grows over time. People change jobs, projects end, systems are replaced, and vendors complete work. If nobody reviews access, old permissions remain. That creates a larger attack surface and makes investigations harder. A good review asks whether the account has a current owner, a current purpose, appropriate permissions, and acceptable risk. If the answer is not clear, the account or permission should be investigated. The main takeaway is that account type drives security treatment. A normal user account supports daily work and should be limited to what the person needs. A privileged account can change systems and therefore needs stronger controls, closer monitoring, and regular review. A service account supports automated activity and needs ownership, limited permissions, and protected credentials. A third-party account gives access to someone outside the organization and should have clear scope, expiration, and oversight. An emergency access account exists for serious situations and should be protected from casual use while remaining available when truly needed. Privilege models help the organization decide how much authority an account receives and how long that authority should last. When accounts are understood, controlled, monitored, and reviewed according to their purpose, identity becomes a stronger defense instead of a hidden weakness.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit DailyCyber.News.